For a long time, I treated everything like a bit from a dark comedy, right up until my own life became the tragic punchline. This is the story of how leaning into the absurd, as a joke, led me to the most meaningful truth I've ever known. My life felt like it was written by a hack comedian. You know the feeling, right? It's that sense that the universe isn't just indifferent, it's actively, almost comically, working against you. The punchlines were always at my expense. Losing my keys on the day of a huge interview, on our third date. Getting a promotion that comes with twice the work for a raise that barely covers my coffee budget. It all feels random, chaotic, and frankly, a little stupid. My life was going to be a joke. I was going to be the one telling it. I developed this coping mechanism, this life hack. I would treat every single moment, every setback, as if it were a scene in a satirical movie about my life. I was the writer, director, and star of a dark comedy where the only rational response to a ridiculous world was to find it hilarious. Satire is a weapon. It asks how you expose hypocrisy and absurdity by taking the irrational parts of the world and just dialing them up to 11. Think of Jonathan Swift suggesting the Irish sell their children for food, or Dr. Strangelove making fun of the madness of nuclear war. And my philosophy was simple. If I framed my own screw-ups as social commentary, they couldn't actually hurt me. They weren't personal failures. They were just material. Parking ticket wasn't an infuriating bill. It was a scene about predatory city governments. This wasn't just looking on the bright side. That's for optimists. This was different. This was an act of self-defense. It was a shield. Dark humor can be an incredible tool for dealing with that low-grade dread we all feel. It lets you get close to heavy ideas, failure, meaninglessness, death, without getting crushed. I wasn't just surviving. I was crafting a story. I was the detached, witty narrator of my own tragicomedy, and from that perch I felt untouchable. For a while it worked. Man, did it work. I'd narrate them in my head, or out loud to my friends, who sort of grew to love this weird new persona. I remember being stuck in a customer service phone loop for almost 2 hours. The old me would have been seething with rage. But the new me? I put the phone on speaker, made some tea, and started live tweeting the whole ordeal like I was an anthropologist, discovering some bizarre, ancient ritual. I described the hold music as psychological warfare, and the robotic voice as a new, soulless dialect. The experience wasn't happening to me anymore. I was using it. Then there was the date that was, by any objective measure, a complete catastrophe. She showed up late, trashed my choice of restaurant, and then spent 45 minutes talking about her ex. It was a masterclass in what not to do. But instead of feeling rejected, I just felt grateful. I was witnessing comedic gold. In my head, a camera was doing this slow, dramatic zoom on my face, capturing my patient's smile as she described in vivid detail the time her ex clogged a toilet at a party. This wasn't a bad date. This was a perfect scene. This logic applied to everything. My tiny, loud apartment wasn't a source of stress. It was a character study in urban despair. My dead-end job wasn't a sign I was going nowhere. It was a commentary on the futility of modern labor. I was like Sisyphus pushing his boulder up the hill, except I was a Sisyphus who thought the whole situation was hilarious. My life was absurd, and I was in on the joke. It doesn't do a thing when the attack comes from within. For me, it wasn't one big dramatic moment. It was a slow burn. It started with the end of a serious relationship. It was just a quiet, sad unraveling. No villain, no big fight. There was no witty observation to be made, no ironic angle that could make it better. There was just this deep, hollow ache. For the first time in years, my inner narrator went silent. There was no joke to tell. There was only the hurt. Laughing at a bad date is one thing. Trying to find the punchline in real heartbreak is another. It felt cheap. It felt dishonest. My life hack, the very thing that was supposed to make me untouchable, had left me totally unprepared to deal with real human pain. I'd spent so much time performing my life, I'd completely forgotten how to actually live it. The shield shattered. It was a symptom of a deep, terrifying loneliness. It just felt empty. And I was standing there, having laughed so hard at everything that I had nothing left to hold on to. I'd reached the punchline, and it was that I had successfully joked my way into total isolation. This is what people call rock bottom. But rock bottom is an interesting place. Once you're there, you realize you can't fall any further. You finally have something solid to push off from. In that silence, with my armor in pieces all around me, I started looking into the very philosophy I'd been making fun of. I started reading about absurdism, not as a joke, but as a real idea. And that's when I found Albert Camus. Camus, the guy I only knew from my little Sisyphus bit, had a much deeper message. He said the absurd is the conflict between our human need to find meaning and the unreasonable silence of the universe. It's that gap between our search for purpose and a world that docently just handed to us. This was the exact feeling I'd been trying to laugh away. But Camus's answer wasn't laughter or despair. His answer was revolt. Revolt in 3 parts: freedom, passion, and rebellion. We rebel by accepting that there's no pre-packaged meaning out there. And then we use our freedom and passion to create our own. The part that floored me was his take on Sisyphus, the man condemned to push a rock up a mountain for eternity, only for it to roll back down. Camus says this is only tragic if Sisyphus is focused on how pointless it is. But he argues that this awareness is also his freedom. Sisyphus walks back down the mountain, fully conscious of his fate. Without hope, he is in control. He is superior to his fate. And in that moment, in that clear-eyed acceptance, Camus says, we must imagine Sisyphus happy. The struggle itself is enough to fill a man's heart. That line hit me like a truck. I had been acting like Sisyphus, but I had it all wrong. I was laughing at the rock. I was mocking the mountain. I was trying to pretend the whole thing was a big joke. So I did and have to feel the strain. But the meaning isn't in mocking the rock. The meaning is found in the pushing. The meaning is created in the struggle. My whole life hack was about escaping the struggle. But life isn't about escaping it. It's about engaging with it so completely that the struggle itself becomes the meaning. It wasn't a magical fix overnight, but it was a new beginning. I learned that my problem wasn't that life is absurd. Life is absurd. My problem was that I was using that as an excuse to check out, to build a wall of irony between me and my own life. The real rebellion isn't laughing at the chaos from a distance. It's stepping into it and choosing to care anyway. It's knowing a relationship might end in heartbreak, but choosing to love passionately regardless. It's knowing your job might feel pointless sometimes, but choosing to find dignity in the effort you put in. It's knowing the universe won't give you a purpose, and seeing that as the freedom to create your own. I still love a good joke. I still think the world is a profoundly ridiculous place. The difference is, now, humor is just one tool in the toolbox, not a shield to hide behind. It's part of the experience, not an escape from it. My life isn't a dark comedy anymore. It's not a tragedy either. It's just mine. It's a mix of struggles and joys, and they're all meaningful, not because the universe says so, but because I choose to make them mean something. We all have our own boulder to push up our own mountain every day. But now, I don't laugh at the rock. I take a deep breath, and I push. And somewhere in that struggle, I find that everything is okay. So what do you think? Have you ever used humor to get through something tough? Or have you found meaning in the struggle itself? Share your story in the comments. I'd genuinely love to read it. And if this resonated with you, think about subscribing for more talks about how we find our way through this absurd world.